Hey guys, well, you're still here, so let's continue tackling all of the Borderlands DLCs so far. And we're going to be continuing with the second DLC, Guns, Loves, and Tentacles, the marriage of Wainwright and Hammerlock. Still hilarious that that's the full name. So, this DLC came out on March 26, 2020, and from what I can tell, I didn't really think that this DLC was going to be, I don't want to say impactful, but it was interesting. It was the first DLC where we were going to be progressing characters who were kind of introduced in the third game. Hammerlock was introduced in the second game, but Wainwright officially made his debut in the third game. And we're basically progressing their story, which is they're getting married now. One complaint I have seen about this DLC is that at the end of Borderlands 3, we see the two hold hands, and that's the most moment we need. No, stop that. Let me explain why I think that this was fine. No matter how you look at this DLC, whether it was possible pandering to LGBT or the fact of they really did want to push these guys' stories, I think no matter what, I like the fact that the Borderlands universe do like to progress people's stories. Even if it takes years. I mean, the Plant DLC progressed the story of the B Team. The Plant DLC also progressed the story of Lilith. No matter how you look at it, these DLCs or these characters or whatever, they need to be progressed. Hell, there's a lot that needs to be done. I don't care if the DLC takes place in the same game, but the fact that they're married now, cool. So there's a lot of implications that could appear now. So when we go into the next game or a DLC that involves Wainwright, especially since there's a DLC that involves Jacobs, how are we going to react to that? Because technically Jacobs is a slightly clean DLC or slightly clean company, right? Right? Yeah, we'll totally get to that later. But most of the time I want to know just what exactly is going on in the universe. Now that these two are possibly getting married, cool. We get to see what it's like to get married in the Borderlands universe. Because other than the marriage DLC that we had in Borderlands 2, there really isn't much offerings to marriage when you think about it. So let's actually give this one a shot and see what happens. So basically, like I said, the plot of it is that they're trying to get married, and they've decided to invite the Vault Hunter to the perfect place to tie the knot. Well, that was, I'm going to probably say this wrong. I think they probably say it in the DLC, but I'm just looking at the word, and it's like Zeolorgos or whatever. I don't fucking care. I know they say it. I didn't plan to look it up. To be honest, I'm going to probably beat myself up that I don't know the name. But basically, this new planet we are going to for they can get married at this lodge. This very mysterious lodge. And just like how in my previous video, we're going to talk about the first thing that came back, a returning character. A character who everyone was like, where the fuck is she? Because apparently everyone thought she was dead until, you realize that something in the game was in reference to her. I'm talking about Gage. Everyone believed that Gage was dead because you find a echo tape in the game that basically hints at her being dead. And no, it was the girl that she accidentally killed. If you don't know, echo tapes are the best thing to look up, or just look up her origin story. Best options. But Gage is now back. Gage is a lot older, and now also Gage has basically progressed in becoming a, wedding planner. Whatever. You go, girl. From there, basically, Gage's main goal is to get these two wed. And so far would have been good if, we didn't also get involved with a cult that, people who want to be immortal. That is probably the biggest thing about this DLC, is that the bosses are kind of introduced to you early in the game, especially since one of them is kind of the first one you meet, Vincent. And he's the best example of how this DLC shoots itself in the foot. Because this DLC's main thing that sucks are the bosses. Oh my god, every boss fight in this fucking DLC sucks. There's not a single boss fight that I liked at all. Even the fake boss fights with Estus is so fucking retarded because I could beat him one-on-one, no problem, with my Amara. I felt so goddamn annoyed. I should not be able to one-on-1v1 a fucking boss. That is goddamn retarded. So, I hate to be this guy and say this, but this DLC's worst trait is the fucking bosses. There's not a single boss I remember that I liked. Hell, there's one that I think has a gimmick where you need to shoot it on a platform. Hence, I'm a fucking melee character. How the fuck was I supposed to hit it? I don't shoot, goddammit! But you know what? Whatever. The game wasn't, that part wasn't made for me, right? Okay, so let's talk about some other characters they added in. We'll talk about the standout, the character who basically represents this DLC as the true, I guess I could say protagonist if you're really being honest, Mancubus Bloodtooth. And before anybody goes into it, yes, I know, this is Aaron from Game Grumps. I am a fan. I found out, hell, I think before I even knew he was in the DLC, I found out from Aaron mentioning that he was in it. Plus, once you hear the voice, if you've heard his Zognoid voice, you fucking know it was him. Like, sorry, there's no answer for buts. You knew it was him. And I'm so glad that this character is not only still in the game, but possibly could be in more DLCs. I love that this character is a reference. By far, he's the standout. He's the character who I think had the most build of a character who's brand new. This second character who I know for a fact got more built, and I'm so glad, was Burton. Burton Briggs, if you don't know, is supposed to be a representation of that detective type in a lot of novels or stories. And one of the things I liked about the character being really represented here was the fact that the character had memory loss. This is something that this town or this area suffers from, is that everyone is cursed with some sort of curse, from the fact of they can't stop, they think the floor is lava, or if they are, constantly believing that they need to jump or whatever. Just random shit that they're constantly cursed by. Burton's is that he just can't remember shit. Hell, he doesn't even remember his name half the time. So it's great when you find out his arc, and basically you have to go down the line of finding out that, he had to kill his... I don't want to go into it. I think it's more sad when you find out what happened to Burton, and I think that that's what really sells Burton as the second most fleshed out character in this DLC. He got the most progress out of all the characters, and that's good. That's how you build new characters. You flesh them out. The last character, as I mentioned, was Ista, which Ista is basically this savage who you have to help because you need to get to this one area, and he's the only one who knows how to get there. And truthfully, he was fun because, like I said, I actually kind of liked fighting him until I basically fought him the third time and was like, this is fucking retarded. But in truth, it was not really... He's not really that fleshed out. He's too much of a caveman to really flesh him out. And I think he was probably the weakest character, excluding the couple. Because even when they tried to flesh out the couple, I could see what they were going for. But their weakest trait is the fact that you don't deal with Vincent that much. He's trapped in Wainwright, to the point where you don't actually really interact with Vincent that much. And the times when you kind of do, it's just Eleanor if you think about it. So they're weak just because you don't interact with both of them like I think they wanted you to. Other than that, character development is basically this DLC. From the fact of the marriage to Gage basically coming to terms with the fact that she is stuck with Death Trap. She and Death Trap are to be. Even when the fact of we have a thing happen to Death Trap that was so fatal. No. Gage and Death Trap are never to be separated. Even, again, Moncubus, how everyone always assumed that he's a bad guy, but I really think it's just the fact that he likes helping people. He just has that downside of, I look evil. And Burton Briggs, I said his story was finished. So this is one of the things that I have to say that I liked about the game is that this DLC's really good at character development. The last thing I want to mention also about this DLC before I kind of like move on, they added a bunch of new enemies, which is great because I mentioned in the first DLC is that other than loader bots coming back, it is nice to have a new variety of enemies. It's nice to have a different thing to shoot, a different thing to punch, especially since these newer enemies didn't play so much like the enemies in the base game. So we got to see a gameplay or different variety for these guys. The other thing was that the environments. So this DLC is supposed to be a H.P. Lovecraft novel on fucking steroids painted in front of you. And truthfully, they are. And that's one of the things that makes this DLC phenomenal. There is so much that you can see and love about this DLC that no matter if this DLC was officially made in 2019 or made in 2020, these guys deserve some fucking work for all of the work they did on this DLC. They deserve praise and they deserve all of it. I don't care. So, truthfully, that is another positive is that the environments really sell what they're trying to sell on this planet. And it made me want to kind of be there for a short while, but like I said, the bosses are kind of what kills it somewhat. So, other than that, this DLC kind of wraps up there. There's not much else that is important. There is a funny Easter egg with Salvador in this DLC, and if you don't find it, trust me, it's plastered in the fucking lodge. You'll find it there. Other than that, I think that's mostly it for this DLC. I think that this DLC was really, really good, and I want to say it was probably the third best, only because those boss fights are what ruins it. If those boss fights weren't bad, I think this could have been possibly the best DLC. But those bosses are what kind of hurt this DLC. So, yeah, that's where I rank it if I was really ranking it, number 3. So, yeah. Other than that, this is Chris Eon saying, continue being Eon Star, never stop going.